Here is Ed Henry on Fox News. Again, pushing this line of like, look, of course we want people to be safe, but we got to juggle a couple of different things. I mean, do we want people to be that safe? It's just a pandemic. Here is Ed Henry.
Dr. Birx yesterday at the same news conference, Dr. Hotez said that the best estimate right now of the mortality rate here in the United States is 0.7 or 0.8%, as in less than 1%. Now, every life matters, and you don't want to minimize any of them.
But when the second, do people not understand? Do these morons not understand that the reason why the mortality rates, when you have the opportunity to look back on a period of time in these countries where you start to get fatalities, is so high, is in part because the medical system is overwhelmed and there's only so many ventilators and there's only so many beds. And that at one point, as the number of fatalities begins and the illnesses, the severe illnesses increase, at one point, it moving up the trajectory like this. And at one point, this line, this horizontal line, is the capacity for the hospitals. And when it goes past that line, the mortality rate starts to grow exponentially because you cannot provide medical care for them. So the reason why it's at 0.7, it hasn't occurred to any of these people, like, why is our mortality rate at this point less than in other countries? Maybe there's something, maybe Americans are just, they're so individualistic. They're so rugged that they can fight this disease in a way that other countries can't. Our per capita ICU beds is less than all these other countries. We have been caught flat-footed here in terms of protective gear. People don't understand. We're at the beginning of this. We're about to enter the phase. You want to get a notion of what's going to happen to other large centers. Start to look at what's happening right now in New York. And over the next 7 days, you're going to see that mortality rate jump at one point because doctors are going to have to make the decision. Do I provide a respirator for this person as opposed to that person? Like, they're all talking about this. Like, theoretically, we could all just say, like, we can let certain people die. Well, that's what's going to start happening at all of these hospitals. And then the mortality rate is going to go up. But here's Ed Henry. You understand that what he's doing here is the exact same thing as Donald Trump calling it a hoax 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. He is creating the same misinformation. It's just a little bit more nuanced. Continue.
In less than 1%. Now, every life matters, and you don't want to minimize any of them. But when the mortality rate is that low, what is the balance? What would be your advice to the president if, say, he's trying to make this decision this coming weekend ahead of the expiration of the 15 days to slow the spread?
So what I would tell the president is that, Mr. President, the mortality rate, that may sound like a low rate. In fact, it's about 5 or 6 times higher than influenza. And what's more, it's not just older individuals. We're seeing about, according to the Centers for Disease Control, we're seeing about a third of the patients who are hospitalized under the age of 40 or 44. And even though they're not necessarily dying, their lives are being saved because they're in ICUs being taken care of. And the reason why Italy looks like Italy right now is you have so many patients in ICUs that they just can't take care of them all. Yeah. And you're starting to see high mortality. So I would say, look, let's get one public health victory under our belt here in terms of what's going on in New York. Maybe we're looking at another month and then reassess. And I agree, we can't stop our economy in perpetuity. Sure. or even for 2 years. Doctor? But I think if you do it now, while the numbers are still steeply climbing in New York, and remember, now we're seeing a new epidemic coming on in New Orleans. So we don't really fully understand how this epidemic is going to play out. It's a brand new virus pathogen. Give it another month and reassess.
I love how Ed Henry was like, doctor, we have limited time to hear from you. I just need the time to set the premise that maybe this isn't such a big deal. We're not going to let you ramble on about how I'm absolutely out of my mind and that the president to do this would basically be making the situation worse. We don't have too much time for that. The president could be watching. Let's just have my premise, and then you just have your degree and you be okay. You don't worry your little head about that.